Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. So welcome friends to this Wednesday evening Sutta study class. And this evening we're continuing looking at some suttas from the Anguttara Nikaya, and we're going over some suttas in the Book of the Tens, Anguttara Nikaya, Book of the Tens. And so tonight we're going to be going over a couple of suttas. We'll see how far we get. And the first one we're going to go over is just some on the subject of decline in our practice of Dhamma. Now this first sutta, again from the Anguttara Nikaya Book of Tens, is number 55.5. For those of you who have the Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, the wisdom publications of the Anguttara Nikaya. That's also on page 1407. So this is sutras on how a person declines in their practice of the Dhamma. And in this sutra, it's Venerable Sariputta speaking to the monks, but repeating what the Buddha has told him. In what way, friends, has the Buddha said that a person is subject to decline? Now, this course could refer to, they were talking to monks, but it could also refer to, lay practitioners of the Dhamma as well. And so he says, here a person does not get to hear a teaching he has not heard before. So that means the teachings normally are sort of gradual, and we know that there's so many different teachings and suttas, and sometimes certain subjects are repeated over and over again, and sometimes certain teachers don't teach maybe certain deeper aspects of the Dhamma. So for a person's mind to grow in the Dhamma, they should also have access to sort of deeper teachings and more varied aspects of the teachings. So one does not get to hear a teaching that one has not heard before, or one forgets those teachings that he has already heard, or he does not bring to mind those teachings with which he's already familiar. So a lot of people hear what teaching once, and then they forget they forget them. And they don't bring them to mind over and over again. So that means the constant repetition of what one has heard, because the mind is easily forgets. And one does not understand what he has not understood. So you might have, heard some teachings, but maybe you didn't clearly understand them. And so one should make an effort to understand what one has previously not understood. It is in this way that the Buddha has said a person is subject to decline. And that's why, a lot of people just maybe read or hear a talk on one subject of the Dhamma, whether it's the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, practice of meditation, and so on. And then they think they kind of know it all, or they know it. And one should be able to, even recite over and over. I mean, to remember them so well that you can recite them without, recite them very easily without forgetting them. But, a lot of times people think they know the Dhamma, and then you ask them, oh, okay, well, what is the Eightfold Path? And then they might say, well, right understanding, and then right mindfulness, or, they won't get them in order or so on. So one should really, learn the Dhamma, which means, over and over again, that it's clear in the mind, all the various lists of categories and so on. Now, some people will say, oh, this doesn't matter, you don't have to do that, or something like that. But that's why people get confused with with the teachings, is because, they don't clearly know the sort of the step-by-step procedure and so on, the way the Buddha laid it out, because he laid it out very clearly in that step-by-step and gradual training. And people like to leave out certain parts, that they don't feel that they need, they may leave it out. And so that's why sometimes they then get confused later on. So, and then the second part of this is, then how is the question come up, how is a person not subject to decline in the practice? That means, in their understanding of Dhamma too. Here a person gets to hear a teaching he has not heard before. He does not forget those teachings he has already heard. And he brings to mind those teachings with which he is already familiar, and understands what he has not understood before. And that understanding comes through repeated practice, both in understanding the intellectual aspects, but also, even more importantly, through the cultivation of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, through the practice of meditation. That's the real way that we start to understand the subtler aspects of the Dhamma that we may not have, fully understood before. And in the deepest sense of that, it means, either developing higher levels of concentration in which you can clearly see and understand those subtler aspects of the teaching, or by attaining the stages of, entering the stream, and once returning by, overcoming the fetters that in both of those ways, attaining higher levels, deeper levels of concentration and wisdom is how we come to understand what we couldn't understand before. So there's some more to this sutta, but it's already things that we covered just a couple of weeks ago. But I just wanted to, in this particular sutta, go over this one section that is useful to, to understand why people get confused in the teachings, or why they, their understanding, sort of stagnates or declines, to point out these various reasons for that, and to encourage you to, keep on, reviewing and reading for those who are really interested in, understanding the Dhamma that the Buddha taught, and so on. Because the more clearly we understand it, from reading the suttas, when we sit to meditate, then we can clearly see all these different things, that the Buddha was talking about on the path to liberation. And now we're going to go on to the 10 reflections given to the monk Girimananda. Now, this is it's a well-known sutta. It's about the 10 reflections. And these are also, it's kind of tails on to this, because it covers a lot of kind of reflections that a lot of people, don't necessarily reflect upon. So I'm just going to read this. It says, on one occasion, the Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi in Anathapindika's park. And then there was a certain monk named Girimananda who was sick and afflicted, gravely ill. And then, hearing about this, the Venerable Ananda went and told the Buddha, about this. He said, Bhante, the Venerable Girimananda is sick, afflicted, and gravely ill. It would be good if the Blessed One would visit Girimananda out of compassion. So that Ananda thought that if the Buddha, visited Girimananda, or maybe the Girimananda had even, maybe hinted or asked the Venerable Ananda if, the Buddha could come and, visit him. But the Buddha's reply to Ananda was, in short, the Buddha didn't go to visit Girimananda, but he told Ananda, if Ananda, you visit the Bhikkhu Girimananda and speak to him about these 10 perceptions, it is possible that on hearing about them, his affliction would immediately subside. And so the Buddha is basically telling Ananda that Ananda can go and recite these 10 reflections to Girimananda, and just by hearing them, it would cause the monk to reflect, and anyway, that he could overcome his illnesses by that. Then what are these 10 perceptions? The perception of impermanence. So that's pretty well known. That's one of the, the major perceptions of wisdom, the anicca sanya. Basically, it means that to understand that, again, the perception of impermanence has two levels. One on the physical level, okay, we see everything is impermanent. People die, grow old, or people are born, grow old, get sick, and die. and so does everything else in the world. So talking about impermanence of the material world, but more importantly, impermanence from the Dhamma point of view is the impermanence of the mental states, impermanence of the mental process, and the impermanence of the five aggregates of form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness as they are arising and passing away from moment to moment through the body-mind process. That's the real perception of impermanence. And that only comes through developing, the insight meditation, by developing your mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom to clearly see how quickly those five aggregates and also the six sense objects are arising and vanishing moment to moment, including our consciousness, and how the consciousness is just arising and vanishing each moment like frames on a motion picture reel of film. So that's the perception of impermanence. And then the perception of non-self. Now, again, the Buddha, whenever the Buddha mentioned things in a list, it was because there was a reason for that. So the perception of impermanence leads to the perception of no self. When you see how quickly the mental processes are rising and vanishing at a very high speed, and when you've developed that kind of mindfulness and wisdom to a deep degree, the sense of self, vanishes in the consciousness, and that's the perception of no self. It's not an intellectual thing. It's a direct, immediately penetration of the consciousness, and where the sense of self vanishes, and one experiences a very, expanded type of consciousness without any, boundaries and borders, and no sense of I, me, or mine in the awareness, basically, the state of pure awareness. So anyway, the perception of non-self. And then the third one is the perception of unattractiveness. Now, this is more of a kind of it begins as a kind of an intellectual understanding, or all of these begin as an intellectual understanding. And then that an intellectual understanding through the practice of meditation then becomes reflective understanding. It's no longer intellectual, but it's a kind of it's just a way of beginning to see the world. And then the deep meditation insights. And so, one like the body, for example, we look at people's bodies and we think it's attractive, especially if they doll it up and paint it with cosmetics and wear jewelry and wear clothes, and we say, oh, look at that, that's attractive, right? But if you strip all that away, you strip all the, clothing and cosmetics and other types of things from a body, or see it in its, sort of underneath the skin, then it's no longer especially attractive. So anyway, a lot of people don't like this meditation because they think it's negative. Oh, so negative, want to see everything unattractive. Look, I'm so attractive. People, their vanity and so on. People think they're attractive because that's what stimulates our lust. Actually, it's seeing the beauty in objects that stirs up our desire and lust. And so if we strip all the sort of conditioned perceptions off of objects and so on, and see things in their nature of being impermanent and subject to change, then it loses that attraction, because you also see the suffering that's inherent in being attached to objects. So in the Pali, and there's a term called the asubha bhavana, means seeing the sort of unattractive nature of things, like food, for example. We think food's attractive, okay, only on the surface. So you go to a nice restaurant and a chef, prepares all these foods, and spends hours, carving up an apple into a nice shape. So carving up fruits and, putting all these, these foods, arranging on a plate, and it looks so appetizing. But after you put it in your mouth, and even after 2 seconds, put food in your mouth and spit it back out and see if you're attracted to that food again. No, you won't be. And so the nature of beauty is very superficial. So that's the meaning of, and the way that one begins to have equanimity and detachment from objects is that normally we only see the attractive nature, where we're attracted to what the Buddha called the outer marks of the various, of the body especially. We see a person's hair or their skin or their nails, and those are the things we get attracted to, or their teeth. Oh, look at the perfect white teeth people have, and their hair, and that's the way we get attracted to things. But then the old saying, the beauty is only skin deep. And so anyway, it's the way to help develop equanimity and detachment from being so getting so infatuated with just the beautiful aspect of things. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy beauty, but it's to see also the underneath it and the superficialness of sort of the beauty, because it's very fleeting and so on. So that was the third perception. The fourth perception is the perception of danger. Now, this refers to the danger of attachment, basically. It means the danger of, seeing the beauty in being attracted to the beauty in things, or not seeing the unattractiveness. So the danger means getting attached and infatuated to the objects of the senses, and getting attached to even one's own ego and so on. So basically it means the danger in attachments, not the danger in the objects themselves, but the danger in getting attached or addicted to, again, the pleasurable objects and the excitement and pleasure that certain addictions and so on bring you, because that addiction can bring you death and so many other problems. So the danger means seeing the danger of the attachment. And the danger of ignorance, because ignorance is what leads us to attachment. And seeing the danger in being, totally dominated by the five hindrances, for example, because as long as our mind is dominated by the five hindrances, then we're never going to make very much, progress in a deeper meditation, in the path to liberation. So the perception of danger. And so it basically means that the danger to, again, identifying and clinging to the five aggregates of clinging: form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. That means the danger of clinging to them as self. And then the fifth perception is the perception of abandoning. And that's when the mind starts, letting go of its interest in all these superficial marks of beauty and attachment and so on. So the perception of abandoning, it means also seeing the liberation in abandoning these things that one had previously been so attracted to. Like, abandoning means, letting go, let's say, of watching too much television, or, watching or other types of indulgences that create excitement, but they also create a lot of stress and anxiety that comes along with it as well, or the interaction with other people's opinions about the things. And so abandoning means letting go of so many unnecessary types of, whether it's material things or even a mental baggage that brings us a lot of anxiety, worry, fear, and getting in arguments and conflicts with others about their opinions about so many things, like getting caught up in politics or other types of attachments to things that ordinary people just always fighting and arguing about, which most of it is not really very bring any real benefit. So the perception of abandoning. And it's also the direct perception of when the mind starts to let go. You abandon that attachment to the body and all the itches or scratchy feelings or painful feelings that are going on. The mind creates that detachment, and you see the freedom in that, the freedom of the mind abandoning what it previously identified with or took its delight in. And you start to experience a more inner kind of delight and contentment that is based on that abandoning those unuseful and time-wasting preoccupations that so many people had before. And then the perception of dispassion. That means, again, it's the losing the interest in this kind of attraction and addiction to various types of activities that bring suffering. So it means no longer getting passionate about so many things and developing a deeper equanimity. And then the perception of cessation. Now, these perceptions are not perceptions just with you're looking around with your open eye and so on necessarily, but it's actually in the meditation experience itself when you're reaching deeper levels of concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom. The mind itself transitions through these states of dispassion. So dispassion is a state of mind, not necessarily a non-caring attitude or something like that, but it's actually the mind that has let go of the interest in the world around so much. So the perception of cessation. And it also refers to in meditation when you experience cessation. Like when you reach a deep level of concentration and awareness, stopped reacting to various unpleasant sensations on the body or pains and so on, and develop a level of subtle awareness, the feeling of a body could cease. So certain perception could cease, like even the feeling of having a solid body can actually cease in the mind because it's a perception. And when that ceases, that is what in the Pali technical terms called bhanga, which means ceasing. It might be temporary, In the beginning, it's just temporary, but you see how the mind can cease, or certain perceptions can cease, and that's one of them. Or the cessation, the ceasing of your previous neurotic states and so on, which are temporary, but so they do kind of cease. But the biggest cessation is the cessation that happens when you experience nibbana. That's really the truly, when they talk about cessation, it means that experience of nibbana, the cessation of suffering, the cessation of ego consciousness. And then there's the perception of non-delight in the entire world. So, when people hear these things, this is why sometimes the Buddhist teachings have a negative taste in some people's mouths, because they're, Buddhism is so negative. There's non-delight in the entire world. They can't fathom that. The average person. And so that's why they tend to have a negative attitude. And that's why these can only be understood by people that meditate. Because there's a higher sublime delight, the delight in emptiness and the delight in cessation and so on. It has nothing to do with the material world. But again, the average person, the person who hasn't experienced that, they would have no idea of what it means. So these are very high perceptions that only arise when you get the deep meditation experience. And then the ninth perception, the perception of impermanence in all conditioned phenomena. So all these last ones, in fact, all of them only arise really when one has developed to the levels of jhanic concentration and developed mindfulness and the four foundations of mindfulness, and have attained at least the levels of access concentration or jhanic level, first jhana level kind of concentration that comes with the insight. Only then can you start really appreciating these type of perceptions. And then finally, the 10th one is mindfulness of breathing. So after going through all those first 9 perceptions, the 10th one is mindfulness of breathing. And then in the sutta itself, I'm not going to read all of them because you can read it. If you get this sutta, you can read it. But they just basically explain what is the perception of impermanence. And basically it's just contemplating the impermanence of the 5 aggregates of clinging. This is called perception of impermanence. And the perception of no self is seeing the I is not self, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind are not I, me, or myself, and so on. The unattractiveness is, of course, contemplating the body as just the 32 body parts and the cemetery contemplations and things like that. But or this actually definition of the abandoning, perception of abandoning. Here a monk does not tolerate an arisen sensual thought, or thought of ill will, or thought of harming, or any kind of negative thought. He doesn't tolerate them. He abandons them. He drives them out of the mind until they stop bothering him. And then that is the perception of abandoning. And the same with the dispassion. Anyway, then finally, he goes over what is mindfulness of breathing. I think we've gone over the mindfulness of the breathing sutta already. before. And so, basically it goes over those 16 stages of the mindfulness of breathing and the development of the insights. So he knows I breathe out long, I breathe in long, breathe out short, breathe out short, breathe in short, breathe out short, experiencing the whole body, breathing in, breathing out, tranquilizing the body, breathing in and breathing out. That means basically attaining the jhana. All those aspects of the mindfulness of breathing will reach the state of jhana. And then you start experiencing the rapture, the jhanic factors, experiencing rapture, breathing in and out, then experience gladdening the mind. So that means experiencing these jhana factors of rapture and happiness. And then it comes to the contemplating impermanence. Breathing in, contemplating impermanence. Breathing out, contemplating impermanence. Breathing in, contemplating fading away. Breathing out, contemplating fading away. Breathing in, contemplating cessation. Breathing out, contemplating cessation. He trains himself until one attains the stages of enlightenment, actually. So this is called mindfulness of breathing. So having gone through all that, he said, if Ananda, you visit the Bhikkhu Girimananda and speak to him about these 10 perceptions, it is possible that on hearing about them, he will immediately recover from his affliction. And then Venerable Ananda learned those, memorized those 10 perceptions, and then he went to the Venerable Girimananda and spoke to him about that. And when the Venerable Girimananda heard about these 10 perceptions, his affliction immediately subsided. The Venerable Girimananda recovered from that affliction. And that is how he was cured of his affliction, was just on hearing these about these 10 perfections. But I think Girimananda was already an arahant. So just hearing about them is not that he just heard about them, but because he was already an arahant, he had that experience of them already. And just hearing about it would gladden his mind, because when somebody who's reached that high level of the Dhamma, just hearing the Dhamma gladdens their mind like that, and it could have been the cause for overcoming that sickness. And there's some other instances in some other suttas where some other monks, but they were also arahants, who, like hearing the 7 factors of enlightenment. That's also another popular sutta in which somebody recited, even to the Buddha, I think, recited the 7 factors of enlightenment, and they overcame their affliction. Okay, does anybody have any, let's see if there's anybody have any comments about any of these 2 suttas that we've just gone over. Doesn't look like there's any chats, right?
Okay, Shubhaji has raised her hand.
Or somebody wants to raise their hand and ask a question about one of these suttas.
Yeah, Bhante, can I request you to please refresh us with the 5 hindrances?
Refresh you with the 5 hindrances.
Yes, just repeat it, just to kind of refresh our minds. What are the 5 hindrances?
See, that's why you have to read these things over and over again. Even though people have heard these things many times, they forget them. But anyway, it's a sensual desire. That means the mind that's thinking about things to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, remembering them, wishing they had these various things, with desire. So, even in your meditation, these thoughts come into your mind, the thought about a certain person or the thought about, going to your favorite restaurant and having a nice meal. So these are all like sensual desires. It means it takes your mind away from your object of concentration, the present moment. And then ill will, and especially related to persons and so on. And regurgitating or remembering ill will and resentment towards persons that might have, done something to you in the past, or could be ill-willed even to, animals or certain situations. Resentment, certain politicians are doing stuff you don't like, people might have ill will toward them because they don't believe or do the things that you want and so on. So anyway, these are just thoughts that carry us away out of our meditation, that block our meditation. They're hindrances because they block our meditation. Now, if a person's not meditating, it's not so important. But people who meditate and people who want to make progress in meditation, then these are the things that are blocking one's progress to meditate. So, and then there's the restlessness and worry. That means, worrying about things you had done in the past that you shouldn't have done, or worrying about things you should have done and you didn't do, or worrying that you're going to get caught for doing something, or just various types of worries. And being restless, not because of that worry, you're not able to become relaxed and to get relaxed because the mind is jumping around, or just always saying, when's this going to be over? When's this going to be over? Kind of restless, not being able to relax. So that's a hindrance to meditation. And then sloth and torpor. That's the mental drowsiness of mind, or laziness of mind, and heaviness of the body. And especially like when after eating or overeating, then you feel that lethargy and, or not only that, but it's just basically that the mental lethargy, the mind that just wants to space out, or, gets drowsy so often and lost in daydreams and so on. And also just a physical kind of sleepiness. And then the doubts, doubting whether, you can make progress in meditation, doubts about maybe certain aspects of the teaching and so on. So this also can kind of block you from, giving 100% to your meditation practice, getting caught up in doubts, doubts, certain doubts about the teaching. So that's why it's good also to clarify one's doubts. Like you're just doing, you're clarifying, to want to understand what the 5 hindrances are. So to make sure that's clear in the mind. So all these other teachings that you heard about, that's why, and the way you overcome the doubts is by studying more and more and more, and by having these things easily, readily available in your mind, and also developing your levels of mindfulness and concentration. So that's the 5 hindrances: sense desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubts. And until one has recognized those and learn how to apply the antidotes toward those, then deeper progress in meditation won't come about. And we spent 1 or 2 sessions of these sessions in Sutta study on the five hindrances, some time back. And we recommended some books to read on the five hindrances. So if any of you out there remember those, or can put them up on the chat board. So anyway, I think, okay, there was one more I was hoping to, and that's a little bit complicated, so I think we're going to stop with there. Is there another question?
Yes,
Moody? Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
What's your question?
Bhante, my question is more a comment. You had said that this it was monks who were arahants that needed this advice and about the Dhamma and the reflections. And I was thinking to myself, if arahants find it hard at the time of sickness, how would people like us feel? My husband is currently he's not well at all. What I was just thinking, if arahats need that.
No, it's not arahants could bear up, the pain of that illness.
Okay.
But just going there and reciting that to recall it to their mind could bring them some joy, because they deeply understand the meaning of those perceptions. But if a person is gravely ill, then their mind could, be a little bit distracted from that. But just hearing these, they would very easily remember them, and then it would fill them with happiness. Where the ordinary person, they can hear them, but if they don't have the experience of what those perceptions mean, then it may not, help them that much. But it's not that these were given only to arhants, but usually it was, in most of the sutras, these were, or at least monks who had attained certain levels of the four stages of liberation. But
So it's not total for that. They have not reached the final stage of liberation, you're saying.
No, arhants have.
Yes, right.
But it could have been recited to a sotapanna or a once returner who's not reached those states. But, it just happens that, they were recited to an arahant. And because of an arahant would understand them deeply, then it might have helped them to overcome the illness. Whereas as a person who wouldn't understand them that deeply, that may, it may or may not help them to overcome the illness. But never mind, even the arahant, even if he was ill, his mind would be able to, of course, if it was an arahant, some arahants can attain arahantship without mastering the jhanas. So that could be a drawback, because even the Buddha, when he had severe pain, he would go into a formless jhana and then lose the connection with the body and be able to tolerate that pain very easily. Now, for someone who cannot do that, there's some arahants who they're liberated in their mind, but they might not be able to attain the higher jhanas at will, or especially like the formless jhanas, where they would lose the feeling of their body and therefore be temporarily liberated from any pains in the body. But even an arhat would feel painful feeling, but he would have a state of equanimity that it wouldn't cause him a lot of grief or suffering over. But still, he would have that feeling. And even the Buddha, in different suttas, the Buddha got, when he was reaching old age, 80 years old, and he oftentimes told Ananda, now my body is a little tired now, I'm going to, lay down, and
Mhm.
you continue to teach the monks. So even the Buddha felt, the heaviness of the body at times, although it didn't really cause a mental suffering, but it still is there,
Mhm.
if he's not, gone into a state of jhana. He
Thank you,
still has
Bhante.
to.
The final part of your explanation really made it clear to me. Yeah, because I was under the impression that arahants are able to, on their own, figure out for themselves that this is the nature of the body, and but as you say, if they feel pain and
They can
can,
still get sick. I mean, they
yeah,
can still get sick.
yeah, I know that they can get sick, but I thought they will be able to reach a state of equanimity by themselves without needing outside aid, because they were arahants after all. That's what I was thinking.
They could still be in a state of equanimity,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean the illness is not going to go away. But in this cases, the reciting of the 10 perceptions made the illness go away. So
Oh, I
the
see.
arhat could have been, in equanimity, and probably was, but the illness can still be there. That's a difference. You can have equanimity to something, but that doesn't mean the object, that disturbance, has gone away. But in
So
this
what?
case, the illness was overcome.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying, Bhante, is that these reflections actually made the illness go away?
That's what the sutra is saying. Now, it's hard
Okay.
for an average person to understand that,
Mhm.
but we cannot fathom the mind of an arahant.
Right.
And but we've heard about people overcoming illnesses, spontaneous remissions of cancers, and so on. That even ordinary people have
That is
had, kind of just for no real reason, something just vanished from them. Some illnesses and so on.
Thank you.
So somebody who's reached that high state of an arhat, could be much more easy. Yeah. Okay, friends. I think is there any other pressing questions out there? I think we'll leave this last short sutra, the third one I was going to go over, and leave it for another time, because our time is getting short, and we still want to have our meditation practice. Okay, so let's take a short break, and then come back in a few minutes for some stretches, and then the meditation practice. Okay, see you back in a few minutes. I shut off my video there. Feel the head balanced on top. And begin some deep, slow breathing. After breathing in, hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds. And slowly let out the breath. On the next in breath, raise the arms over the head. Interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms. Look up at the back of your hands. Out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of the head. Again, in breath, palms up, straighten the arms. Stretch the head back, bend back a little bit. Out breath, touch the top of the head. Third time, hold that upward stretch longer, bend back a little. Release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the sides. Feel the sensations. Just close the eyes. Keep the mind focused inside. Try to feel the increased body sensations. Just remember the present moment of standing, standing, standing. Just let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the feeling of the body in the front of the awareness. And with the next in-breath, push up on the toes, raising the arms up over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other and stretch. Out breath, come back down, arms to the side, heels to the floor. Use the breath to help lift up the body, in-breath up. Out. In. Out. Relax. Just close the eyes. Just feel the inner sensations. Subtle pulsations, prickling sensations. Or just the touch of the clothing against the skin. Feel any body movement. Just remember standing, standing, standing. And then next we'll do the knee bending. On an in-breath, again, lift up on your toes and lift the arms up front for balance. On the out-breath, bend the knees and lower the body down. Come down in the squatting position. The in-breath, push up on the toes. Out. In. Out. Out breath, relax. Just keep feeling the body. Feet pressing the floor. Arms and hands at the side. The head on top. And now spread the Legs apart about 3 feet. We'll do side bending, keeping the hands at the sides. Breathe in. On the out breath, bend over your right side, letting the right hand slide down by the knee or below the knee. The other hand kind of laying on the hip. In breath, lift up. Pause a moment. And next out breath, the other side. In breath. Out breath to the right. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In breath. And just relax. Just feel the whole body. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Feel where the socks touch the skin of the feet. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the legs. Just remember standing, standing. And now we'll do the last exercise of forward and backward bending. So still keeping the legs apart, hands touching the front of your legs. Breathe in. On the out breath, bend forward, keep the head lifted up. Let the hands come down to your knees the first time. Try to flatten the spine to get the hump out of the spine. In breath, lift up. Move the hand under the buttocks for support. Gently let the head go back. The out breath, bend backwards, not too far. Keep the eyes open. In breath, carefully lift up. And again, out breath forward. Let the hands come below the knees. About halfway if you can. Still keep the head up. In breath. Again, the back bend, the out breath. In breath. And the third time, let the hands come down as far as you can toward the feet. Still keep the head up. Feel the stretch in the back of the legs. Hold it a little longer. The in-breath, lift up. And once more, the back bend. In-breath, lift up. And the out-breath, just relax. Just feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating with activated life force. Just feel all those subtle vibrations, or any aches or pains. Present moment awareness. Now bring the legs, feet back together. Begin to stand straight. Feel the body. And then do the head turning. Just one last exercise. In breath, turn your head to the right. Look over your right shoulder. The out breath, 180 degrees back to the left. And look over the left shoulder. In breath back to the right. Just concentrate into the neck vertebrae. Imagining them, feeling them loosening up. Out breath left. In breath right. Out breath left. On the in breath, let the head stop in the center, relax. Just feel the whole body standing, standing, standing. Okay, so let's come back to our seats for the sitting meditation. Okay, friends, again, I'm going to turn off my video with this guided meditation. Let's try to sit straight. Let's keep the back and the head, the back of the head and the spine in a straight line. Try to establish that inward curve of the lower spine and back. Once you place your hands in some position, try not to move them during the whole meditation. Gently close the eyes. Now bring your attention down to feel where the buttocks press the seat. Try to feel or imagine that 100 or more pounds of the body pressing the seat. Feel that hardness, that contact. It's like looking through a magnifying glass or looking down through a microscope. Just focus your attention to feel the buttocks pressing the seat. Try to feel the right buttock and the left buttock. Just feel those sensations caused by the pressure. And just remind yourself of sitting. Now the body is sitting. In the present moment. And let the awareness kind of move down your legs toward the knee. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the legs. And feel how the knees are bent. And moving the attention down the lower legs. Feel where the feet might be crossed underneath. And try to feel your heels. Feel the heels of the feet. Should be lots of sensation in the heels. The right heel and the left heel. Ability to switch attention and focus on different places is a mental strength in meditation. And feel the rest of the foot, the arches of the foot, and then the toes. See if you can mentally feel the outline of your big toes, other toes, where they touch each other. Feel the sensation of the socks touching the skin of the feet. Just remember sitting, sitting. Now feel your hands and fingers where they touch together or touch your legs. Or to feel the subtle pulsations. or other little tingling sensations. Again, remember sitting. Now feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulders or arms, even the chest. Now feel the head balanced on top of the neck. And feel your face, or feel the sensations of the skin stretched over the front of the skull, feeling of tightness on the forehead, the nose, chin. Just any little prickling sensations or itchy sensations. And feel your lips touching together. Or feel the upper lip touches the lower lip. Any sensations of dryness or moistness on the lip. And feel inside of the mouth, feel the tongue laying in the mouth, where the tongue touches any teeth. Just the raw sensation. And now feel the eyes in the sockets, the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. Try to notice the subtle eye movements, and the blood pulsing in the capillaries of the eyes, lids. You might see some light or color, or even a mental image. Or just darkness. And from that point behind the eyes, let the awareness expand slightly. Try to feel the outline of the whole sitting body. Start to feel some sensation of the buttocks or feet pressing the floor underneath. The hands and the arms at the sides, in the middle. Feel the clothing touching the skin on different places. The head balanced on top. Just by resting the attention behind the eyes, the kind of the outline of the whole body should kind of light up in awareness. Feeling that all the sensations, those different places. This present moment, body awareness, sitting, sitting. That natural present moment awareness connected to the body. And now begin some deep, slow breathing again. Feel the more dynamic expanding and contracting of the lungs, the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. And hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. Give time for all the oxygen to get into the bloodstream, out to the cells. And feel the relaxing contraction of the out breath. Try to feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. And then the next in-breath. Just take several deep, slow breaths like that. Oxygenating the bloodstream. While cultivating this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now let's try counting the breaths from 1 to 10. Gain a better concentration. Try to continue taking some deep, slow breaths if you can. Just keep the attention focused in the middle of the body. With the next expanding in breath, count to 1. Feel that brief pause. With the Contracting out breath, also count 1. With the next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out breath, 8. In breath, 9. Out breath, 9. In breath, 10. Out breath, 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled or shorter rhythm, but continue to feel it. Stay focused there in the center of the body. Feel the shorter or subtler expanding, contracting sensations. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it. You feel those sensations when the clothing rubs against the skin of the belly or the rib cage or chest. As it expands and contracts. Try to feel the 4 phases of the breathing. The expanding sensations of the in-breath and the brief pause. The contracting sensations of the out-breath and the brief pause. It's called the whole breath body. The in-breath and the pause. The out-breath and the brief pause. To help you stay focused, you can make these brief mental notes with the in-breath, in, and with the out-breath, out, out. And the brief pauses between the breaths, feel the outline of the sitting body. Remember sitting. Just in, sitting. Out, sitting. This represents the ongoing, continuous connection to the present moment. This breathing body is the natural connection to the present moment. Try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes you feel it in the abdomen, sometimes you feel it in the chest. It's always changing. Just have the attitude of being a scientist sitting in the laboratory. This body is the meditator's laboratory. And looking down to the microscope of focused awareness. In, sitting. Out, sitting. It's cultivating concentrated awareness. Moment by moment, breath by breath. It's cultivating the perception of impermanence, even in the breathing. The in-breath begins, lasts a moment, and ends. The out-breath begins, lasts a moment, and then stops. That's the impermanence of each breath. It's beginning and ending. We're noticing the arising and vanishing, or coming and going of the different little sensations. There's also the part perception of impermanence. And all those little different sensations constantly arising and vanishing, changing. Even within the breathing process. Just turning up the power of the mental microscope. Even while noticing the impermanence of the breathing, other sensations, like itches or prickling sensations, they arise and vanish in or around the breathing. But also be alert for thoughts sneaking up into the mind, or thoughts coming and going in the back of the awareness. So the impermanence of the mental activity, thoughts or urges, ideas. So there's the impermanence of the bodily process, the impermanence of the mental process. It's the perception of impermanence. This bodily process is going on by itself. All those sensations of the body are coming and going on their own. You don't own or control them. Even the stream of thoughts, ideas, or urges, or feelings, so just coming and going on their own. You don't own or control them. They don't care what you think. It's the perception of no self. There's no owner or controller in this body-mind process. Can you stop those sensations from coming? Can you stop your thoughts from coming? If they were yours, you could control them. If you're the owner, breathing in, beholding impermanence. Breathing out, contemplating impermanence. It's cultivating that detached, onlooking awareness, this body-mind process. As though you were kind of sitting in a balcony seat in a theater, just watching this body and mind sitting and breathing, thinking, different aches or pains coming and going. Cultivating that space of detachment, abandoning that identification or clinging to the body and mind as me, I, mine. It's the perception of abandoning. Feel the peace in that abandoning ownership. In sitting, out, out, sitting. Sensations come and go. Perceptions come and go. Thoughts, ideas, opinions come and go. Urges come and go. Sounds come and go. These are all just the continuous flow of impermanence and change through this body-mind process. And just beneath all of that impermanence and change or pains or mental chaos is the ever-present dimension of awareness, present moment awareness. It's not affected by any of the flow of impermanence. If we lose that connection to the breathing body, to present moment awareness, and the mind gets easily carried away and drowns in the flood of impermanence. It's carried away by the flood of impermanence. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touches, memory. So what perceptions arise in the mind based on that sound contact? Dependent on contact arises sensations, feelings, thought. Sabbi sankara anicchati. Sabbi sankara dukkati. Sabbi dhamma anattati. Yada panyaya pasati. Atane bindati dukkhi. Isamargo visuddhiya. all conditioned things of this body, mind, and world, the five aggregates, are impermanent. Clinging to things that are impermanent brings suffering. And all dhammas, the conditioned as well as the unconditioned, are without any owner or controller. They are not self. When one understands these three characteristics with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to abandoning dispassion, cessation. And thus spoke the Buddha. Okay, now let's spend the last couple minutes of the meditation by sending out thought vibrations of best wishes to all living beings, to ourselves and all others. So take some deep breaths again. After filling up the lungs with a deep in-breath, hold the air in the lungs as long as you comfortably can to feel the subtle kind of exhilarating sensations. Imagine that oxygenated blood going out to all the cells of the body. Feel the relaxing contractions of the out-breath, feeling that happiness of the present moment. Just imagine that as sending metta to your own body and mind. Just take a few more deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating these metta thoughts to yourself. May I be well, peaceful, and wise, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from the pain, sorrow, and sufferings of unskillful karmic actions. May I have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. I continue to develop my understanding of the Dhamma and the practice of meditation to free the mind from confusion and suffering. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. And sending these same thoughts out to your family members, relatives, good friends, colleagues that you have at your workplace, neighbors you might have. So with each holding in the breath, just imagine these vibrations, and on the out breath, imagine these waves of metta thoughts going out to all these beings. With each out breath, just imagine these waves of metta vibrations, best wishes, going further and further outward across the countryside, to the cities, eventually over throughout the whole country and beyond the oceans to encompass the whole earth and world. With the idea that may all living beings, wherever they might be well, peaceful, and wise, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from the pains and sufferings of body and mind brought about by their unskillful thought, speech, and action. May all beings have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May all beings be able to hear the teachings of the Dhamma, and learn and practice meditation to free their minds from confusion and suffering. May all beings be able to live peacefully and harmoniously together, understanding the ultimate non-self and emptiness of all phenomena. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. Just like a mantra reverberating throughout space. Well, peaceful, and wise. Now to finish the meditation, I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu slowly on a long out breath. Now, if you like, you can place the hands at the chest. You do the chanting 3 times with the deep, slow breathing. So take a deep breath. And place the hands at the edge of your knees. Take one more deep breath. As you breathe in, stretch your head back, pull the hands against the knees, to arch back a little bit. And lift the head up on an in-breath, and on an out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the head up level on an in-breath, and then relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends, I hope you had a nice, peaceful meditation, got some good insights into the nature of abandoning impermanence, abandoning dispassion. or any other insights you might have gotten. So, I wish you all the best this next week. Try to continue your meditation practice. Remember doing your M&Ms every hour. Mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. The Sutta a day keeps confusion away.